Gagandeep Bakshi, welcome to the channel Kahani's Golden Bytes. Thank you for taking your time to be on the channel, Gagandeep.
Thank you, Joby, for inviting me. Pleasure.
Thank you, Gagandeep. So, Gagandeep, for the benefit of our viewers, may I request you to please give a little background about yourself, Gagan?
Sure. Yeah, so, I have been a banker for last 20 years. I'm an investment banker, primarily focused on private equity and M&A. What I've been doing for the last 9 odd years is focused on impact investing, which means that we are working with businesses that are creating a significant impact on the emerging markets, on the base of the pyramid population, or towards creating a significant change on the environment. So that's the kind of businesses we work with, help them raise capital, and we do it in India and in Asia,
wow.
as well as Africa now.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep, Gagandeep. So Gagandeep, do you you've mentioned different countries, and within India, are you concentrating on certain markets, or the entire country is open for you?
No, the entire country. We focus on a few sectors. Certainly, like say financial services, healthcare, clean energy or renewable energy. We look at education, and then we look at food and agri businesses.
Wow.
So these sectors we believe have the potential to create a significant impact, and that's why we try and focus on these sectors.
So these sectors that you're mentioning, Gagandeep, big changes happening in the recent years.
Tremendous. We've seen a significant shift, especially in financial services. We now see a lot of digitization happening in the last decade. And I think a lot more will happen in the coming decade. And that itself is getting impact, or is impacting other sectors as well, because financial services is actually a base for many other sectors. So once you digitize anything in the financial services value chain, all the other sectors linked to it also get impacted.
So true. And Gagandeep, do you also, I'm presuming, but do you also invest in startups or companies that are already established?
Well, so I help in raising capital for businesses that are already established, where the business model is already operating. You know what the unit economics looks like. But our group, one of our group entities, does investments in startups. It's called Avishkar Capital. So we are part of the Avishkar group, and we manage currently $400 million in India and South Asia. And we have other businesses in the lending side, into microfinance and MSME lending as well.
Amazing. So the space you are in, not only do you need to be, a master of finance, but even from a legal and compliance, because each country has its own set of rules, right?
Yes. But at the end, I think, Joby, we all have to be storytellers.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, we are all bankers.
Yes.
So we have to tell stories to the investors that are investing their money in.
True. Absolutely, Gagandeep. So Gagandeep, let me, take you back in time a little bit. Okay. So you started off in the early years with American Express.
That's right. That was my first job.
That was your first job. So Gagandeep, you stopped your working. I'll use that word, stopped your working, and you went further studies, right?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go, Gagandeep?
So I went to University of Nebraska, Lincoln, in US. And that's right at the center of the United States. There's a state called Nebraska. And this is a MBA program which was set up by Warren Buffett. Right. So he founded or funded the MBA program there. So this university was set up by some capital contributed by Warren Buffett at that time. Fantastic.
So Gagandeep, could I ask you one question? Why didn't you think of, I'm purposely asking this, an executive MBA? Why did you quit your working and go for further studies, just to concentrate on studies? What made you, take that decision, Gagandeep?
A few reasons, Joby. I think one was that I felt I really need to give justice to what I wanted to do full time, right? Working, usually when you're working, you don't, I was like more like a workaholic, right? So if I'm working 12 to 15 hours a day, then really finding time for something else that you want to achieve, I felt that it's not right at that time. So I thought it is best to just take a break, do what you want to do, and then come back, right? Second, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to do was I have never, had a life in the hostel, right? Or in a university, right? We all went to college, but really the university life that you hear and see in global institutions, I thought let me experience that. And really, it's a matter of 2 years, but if it's early in your years, I thought I could take that risk, right? And the fact that you learn a lot when you're on the campus, you're staying on the campus, I think that really helped me a lot as well.
So you mentioned a couple of things that caught my attention, Gagandeep. So Gagandeep, you're speaking positively about the campus experience and your time there. Before I go to the obvious question, if you were to carry on doing what you were in American Express, would you have gained the specialized knowledge or the specific knowledge in the area that you are in if you did not go for this further studies?
Honestly, no, Joby. I think where I am today and where I started at American Express is a completely different environment, right? Started with credit card and charge card operations to being an investment banker, right? And in the middle, I was doing corporate finance with Citi for their 7 countries in Asia Pacific. So it's been a complete change, and all that has been only possible because once you do an MBA, it gives you an overview of really what else is there for you, right? And you can pick and choose where you want to focus on. I in fact happened to also go ahead and complete a CFA program in US after my MBA, right? So that also was something that only it came to my knowledge because I was there and I did my MBA, and I realized MBA is also there, but I need to further it up with a CFA program.
So Gagandeep, if I'm hearing right, your education has actually, directly had an impact on your career and every step that you've taken in that space.
Right. Yes, it does. Yes.
So what if I've heard this in some quarters, some segments where people say MBA is a piece of paper. What would be your take on that? And it's sorry, I'll just leave it at that. What's your take on that, Gagandeep, given your experience?
I think every let's say a product or every degree has its lifespan, right? When I went for the MBA at that time, maybe MBA degrees were almost at the plateau or maturing, right? But today, yes, it's become a commodity, right? I think how what is your end objective really determines whether the MBA was adding value or not. For me, MBA was important because I was just a graduate. I was in American Express and I had to widen my horizon. That could be the only way for me to learn a lot more and take as much out of it as possible, right? Will it always be going to be helping you in the job? Not necessarily, right? But it at least gives you a perspective of what's there for you, what you can pick and choose. But then you certainly have to continue to be at it and maybe keep adding more to it, right? Like the way I did the CFA program, because MBA was just not enough.
So you've been, you did your MBA and then your CFA after that, So,
yes.
So basically, you weren't paper chasing. I'm purposely using that word, that term. You weren't paper chasing. You were, you took those steps hungry for knowledge,
yes.
in a manner that you are going to benefit from it.
Right. Yeah, because when you want to be in the finance field, and certainly when I picked and chose certain careers for me during my MBA, I realized that CFA is only going to add more value to it. Certainly, I was not sure whether I'll be in India or not, but I realized that outside of India, all developed markets, CFA was a tag like being a CA or a CPA, right? And people or enterprises valued that degree, right? In India today, you don't have a regulation for CFA, but you have a regulation for a CA, right? I would have hoped that CFA would have become that kind of a degree for India. It's not yet done, but I think even countries like Singapore have a very important significance for a CFA degree, right? And that's the reason why I did it.
Yeah, and it's given you the specialized knowledge that you wouldn't have got, just working,
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So Gagandeep, what would you, like to share with people who are at that juncture where they're wondering, should they quit further studies? Will it help? Is it of any value? Is it, for that segment of people, there's always that segment available all the time in the country. What would be your viewpoint or your opinion, to that segment of people who are at the crossroads wondering, should I not go for further studies?
I think Joby, it's very individualistic, but I would say that one should always step back and realize is what you're doing is good enough or not, right? Or can you really further it, right? There are people who are happy doing what they are doing, right? So certainly there are people who build their careers out of credit cards, right? And they've been all like say 20 plus years in credit cards. Was that not good enough? I think that was great, right? If you want to build your career there and you think you're learning enough on the job, I think that's great. You don't really need to, right, take a break every time. But I think it's about really enhancing your knowledge and making sure that are you ready for the future, right? And at some point, like say doctors, right, they continue to keep giving exams every 3 years or 5 years to make sure that they're clued into what's happening new in their field. I think it's the same for any other career. One should just making sure that any knowledge is not going to go waste, but it should keep adding some value to what you want to do in the future as well.
So Gagandeep, could I ask you a question? Did you try your MBAs here in India at that point in time? Because, as it was beginning to flourish, that space, everybody wanted to do an MBA at that point in time. But did you try? What was your experience? What are your thoughts? What did you go through, Gagan?
Yeah, Joby, in fact, like everybody, I also went behind the brand. I was trying to, focus on getting into IIMs. And I tried it for 3 years in a row, right? And it's been, unfortunately, I couldn't get into any of the IIMs that time. But what I regretted was that it was really not important to be at IIMs, right? Because when I completed my MBA at UNL and I came back and started working, I realized it did not matter whether you were from Wharton or any other Ivy League or IIMs, because all the MBA kids that were working with me, they all had the same caliber. It did not matter whether they were from Wharton or anything. So I felt that sometimes when we, focus on brands versus real knowledge, I think we may lose out on the key, key years of your life chasing behind or running behind certain things. If I can go back, I would have probably not wasted 3 years trying for IIMs. I would have probably focused on doing what I was doing and then maybe tried to just get into a US school or any other global school and just complete the MBA program and come back. And I think that's probably what I would advise all people is that don't, if just focus on the dream of really the end goal rather than trying to focus on the brands of how you want to get to it. So, and that probably will help in the long run as well.
Thank you for that, Gagan. Gagandeep, I won't take more of your time. I know I've already taken a lot of your time. I want to thank you for taking our time to be on the channel, Gagandeep. Thank you so much.
Not at all, Joby. It was a pleasure being here. And I hope I would inspire many of the youngsters and the people who are really waiting to decide whether they should take a break or not. But it's a positive thing. One should always take that step.
Thank you so much, Gagandeep.
Thank you, Joby. Thank you very much.